All right, this section of the class is much shorter. We spend a lot more time on the other three sections, but we'll go through a few things here related to ICE, Innovation, Creativity, and Entrepreneurship. This is what the program in the business school is called. Certainly, it is about entrepreneurship, job creation, those kind of things, but it's also just about innovation and creativity in whatever it is that we're doing. Um, I'm not an artist, but it doesn't mean, I can't help find creative solutions to challenges and find opportunities for moving things forward, right? So all of those things are possibilities. Moving through some of this. So, talking about ICE, innovation, right? Being able to come up with new ideas, to be creative in those things. Some of you are very creative in some of the things that you do in your lives, from art to music to lots of different things, even recreation, just doing things in a different way. Sometimes we don't think about those things as creativity, right? It's not music, it's not art. I'm not a musician, I'm not an artist. And I play trombone, I play piano, I'm a little bit of a musician, I suppose. Can sing a little bit, but, you know, we all have something where we can be creative and do things a little bit of a different way. And that's what we're talking about. Um, how can we be innovative, think up new ideas? All of these things are part of entrepreneurship. Whether it's sometimes people call entrepreneurship intrapreneurship, right? Change the E to an I. Being a part of a company and still being an entrepreneur, having an entrepreneurial spirit, being innovative and creative, not just being satisfied with the way things have always been done, but trying to come up with better ways, new products, whatever it might be. And so that's kind of the context of what ICE really is. So how can we be what we would call creative innovators, right? It's interesting. You see statistics like this sometimes, right? The change is constant. 65% of today's grade school kids will end up in a job that hasn't even been invented yet, right? Interesting, right? And so how do we work on what they call these wicked problems? I'll let you look through those, but these are the kind of problems in the world that are, they're so challenging, so different in parts of the globe. We might talk about trying to work on eliminating hunger around the world, but eliminating hunger in the middle of New York City or Los Angeles or some big city is much different than trying to solve those kind of problems in some country in Africa. Right, it's very different issues. The main result out of all this is hunger, but that you can't. It's not a one size fits all type situation. So you can click on that link right there, Wicked Problems, and take a look at that article if you'd like. It's pretty interesting. Couple of other videos. A lot of this, frankly, this section are some great outside videos for you to take a look at on your own time. That most of them aren't very long, but you can take a look at some things that are pretty interesting that a lot of people find helpful in their careers and in their jobs. Part of the soft skills, right, that we need to have as employees, and certainly if we're trying to work on starting our own business and keeping that thing going. Right. So more than anything else, ICE is a mindset, and I've alluded to this already. But it's an attitude that includes some different things, right? So the power to choose, right? We feel like we have power when we're doing these kind of things, that we're making choices, coming up with new ideas. Then it becomes, how do we finish, right? It's one thing to come up with new ideas. It's another thing to implement them. And not everybody who's good at coming up with ideas like this and brainstorming those kind of things is, what you might call an implementer. And so, that can sometimes be a challenge. I've worked with people like that. They have such good ideas, but helping them follow through on them is sometimes an issue, right? Because they spend so much time thinking about how to do things better that they don't actually do them better. So there's got to be a balance in there somewhere, right? Being able to recognize opportunities. You have to be action oriented, though, right? That's part of ICE, is being able to get these things done. The scientific method, right? A little bit of trial and error, right? Come up with an idea. Hey, let's test it. Let's see if it works. If it does, then, off we go. If it doesn't, that's not a problem, right? Failure is a part of being an innovator, right? Not every idea you're going to come up with is going to be gold, right? Some of it might be silver, some of it might be bronze, and frankly, some of it might just be poop or something like that, right? So, how do we come up with those great ideas? How do we talk about them as a group? It's not an individual process, right? For the most part, this is a group-oriented type activity as we work on these kind of things. Although there are certainly individuals who have come up with some great ideas all by themselves, right? Continuing to learn, that's important as it follows the scientific method, because as we get things wrong, maybe we don't need a whole new idea, but we just need a tweak to the one we've already got, right? So being able to look at things that way as well is very important, right? Healthy, wealthy, wise, right? Early to bed, early to rise. You got to take care of yourself, and take the time for yourself that you need in order to be effective in the other things that you're doing in your life, and this being brand aware. It's kind of how we started out this class, and what this class is overall, right, is how are we more aware of our own brand? How does it fit? If we're selling something, a product or a service, being aware of what others think, and not being afraid to ask people, right? Because in the end, making a product or some service just for myself, doesn't make a lot of sense. We have to do that with and for other people. So considering those kind of things is important. And then, being able to build community, get people involved with you, certainly is very important, right? This, again, as I said earlier, right, this isn't a single person activity, generally speaking. This is, creating this kind of a mindset among many people, and so that we build off each other and come up with great ideas together, right? We don't have to feel and put the pressure on ourselves like we have to do this all on our own. Take a look at this video as well. Remember when you were a kid, right? All these things were, being creative and doing new things was, all the rage, right? Was something we were supposed to be doing, right? So how to ice, right? So this is what they call the design thinking process, right? So as we empathize, we think about, okay, what do people need? What's bringing them down? What problem can we solve? Then let's define the problem, think about ideas to overcome it, or to create something that will help people, create a prototype, whether that's a physical product or something else, where we can just, write down the ideas and do things that way. But then we also have to test it, and then we can adjust it, right? And continue through this process. And sometimes we'll go back and forth. Maybe we create this prototype and test it, and we find out that we've defined the problem a little bit wrong, and so we have to go back to that. Right, so this can be kind of a loop-driven type process if necessary. It's just not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You notice there are no numbers on this. I could have created some arrows on this to show that this could be circular, but that is important with this as well. So I want to talk about the 2 assignments that are due in this class, or in this part of the class. So going back to the business you created in the econ section of the class for Uncle Jimmy, you're going to use the business model canvas to do that, right? To finish this assignment, right? So you're going to use this model of the business you created with Uncle Jimmy to visualize your business in this what they call, again, the business model canvas. There are 2 videos here that show you how to do this and what it's about. Kind of explain it. Right, and then within that assignment is the template or the sheet that goes along with creating the model based on your business. So don't be afraid to go back and look through those multiple times if necessary to make sure you understand what's going on. Here's an example of the business model canvas. I recognize that even when you blow this up, it's fuzzy, right? Hard to read. But those are the 9 different sections of the business model canvas, and again, each one of these areas is explained, and there's a simplified version of this in Canvas for you to use to fill this out. Okay, so that's one assignment within this. Here's some other videos for you, just kind of in between this, as you look at motivation that helps in different areas. And then the last assignment in this section is around what we call the flow principle. Right, so on the left-hand axis you've got challenge, and on the bottom you've got skill. Right, the x-axis is skill, y-axis, going back to my math days, right, is the challenge level. And if something is pretty easy, but even if I'm not very good at it, it's kind of, I just don't care. If I'm not very good at it and the challenge level's a little higher, I might be worried about it, that I'm inadequate. And if it's really tough, it's like, okay, I just, this creates anxiety. I'm out. Um, but you can read the rest of those. But the one that we're talking about is the upper right-hand corner in flow, where something's pretty tough, but I'm pretty good at it. And you just kind of get into the zone, if you will, if you want to think about this from a sports perspective. But this can be in any area, right? It can be in business. You kind of get in the flow of things. You're just moving, working through, doing well, coming up with ideas. The words that you're typing, if you're working on a paper, just come out. Maybe it's music related or art related or computer programming related or whatever, right? It could be just about anything. And when we get into that flow, right, you get it, right? You think about, the one I think about with this has always been Michael Jordan, right? And when he got onto the flow of a game and was motivated in a particular game, and he just wouldn't miss. He was just everywhere, right? You can pick your favorite sports star who's done things like that, or anybody else who you look up to in your, field of study or something you like to do, a hobby, right? You've got somebody who you look up to, and they're just, even though what they do is tough, they're just good at it, and it just seems to be effortless. And that's what we're talking about. So there's an article on this by, and we can say good luck with this name, right? Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, right? So as you think about this, and this is a little bit more on flow, he is the main author and the main beginner of this thought of writing something down about this. And so you can take a look at that. But this assignment is about how do we take flow and combine it with entrepreneurship, right? Innovation, creativity. How do those things come together? And there's a 1.5 page paper that's a part of this section of the class. So, all right, thanks.